Shalom, shalom, brothers and sisters. Shabbat shalom. Loipos family, this is the Sabbath, the Dragon, and the Lamb, part 5. So we left off in the last video on kingdom number 6 in this study. And I've been giving a disclaimer that this is not in the biblical scholarly understanding of Daniel, the traditional setting having Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. This is something entirely different. So this kingdom, we're saying that this is kingdom 7. We're saying that the first kingdom was heaven. The second kingdom was the Garden of Eden. The third kingdom outside of the rest of Yahweh was Babylon. Then you have Medo-Persia. Then in the last video, we talked about Greece. Now, and then Rome. And then this is the seventh kingdom, the United States. So Revelation chapter 13, verses 11 through 12 elaborates on this. Then I saw another beast coming up out of the earth, and he had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. America begins with lamb-like principles. So after the Protestant Reformation, remember we talked about that time of 538 to 1798, where you have the Protestant Reformation. And then you have all of the Protestants who fled Europe, and they moved to this new nation, which you see in Revelation chapter 13, verse 11. So you have America begins with lamb-like principles, but eventually speaks like the dragon, enforcing false worship. So the beast that came before the United States of America was Rome. So you have the Protestant Reformation protesting against this beast power, this Roman power that was implementing the doctrines of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet that we've been talking about, keeping it simple. And they came to the United States. So that time period happened in the 18th century, in the 1700s. A lot of stuff happened in the 1700s. You have 1798, where John Berthier was captured, which was symbolic for church and state being separated because Rome lost its power to enforce its religion throughout the nations, because it had civil law and it had religious law. But in 1798, when the Pope got captured, it lost that power to implement this doctrine of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet throughout the nation, which is why the Protestant Reformation moved towards the West. We have the establishment of the United States of America, and also in the 1700s, in the 18th century, you have the rise of the United States of America, us getting our independence, 1776, 1777, 1778, and becoming a nation. So that's also why it had 2 horns like a lamb and spoke like a dragon. Because the beast that we talked about, the great and dreadful beast that we talked about in the last video, which had pompous words and spoke against the Most High, it was implementing that doctrine through the simplicity of Sabbath rest. And we talked how Constantine implemented and broke that rest by implementing Sunday worship in the same way that Babylon implemented Sunday worship with Nimrod, Semiramis, and Tammuz, and venerating them to the sun from astrology worship. So America begins with a lamb-like structure, but eventually it will exemplify the same beast that it ran from, which was Rome, and it will exemplify the same characteristics. Revelation chapter 13, verse 16 through 17 elaborates on this. It says, "He causeth all," talking about the United States, "both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark on their right hand or in their foreheads, and that no one may be able to buy, sell, except one who has the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name." Now that beast is the Roman power. That's why it's going to pay homage to that Roman power. That's why in Revelation 13, the wound is healed. We were talking about how Rome lost its power to implement its religion from the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet. It lost that power because the church and state had separated. But when the United States of America unites with Rome, which is why we also talked about the dream in Daniel was mixed with iron and clay. That last kingdom had a mixture of iron and clay, but it could not mix completely because iron does not mix with clay. Just like clay, or the United States of America, will not mix with Rome or iron. It will attempt to do that. That will be the great deception, but it's not possible. So we see this in Revelation chapter 13, verse 16. The specifics of that is causing all, universally, both small and great, rich and poor, free and slave, to receive a mark. That mark is the same mark that we've been talking about with Babylon, when Nimrod and Semiramis established astrology worship and venerated the sun and their son Tammuz, saying that Tammuz was now God on earth. And that's the same thing that Rome teaches, which is why when Rome transitioned from pagan Rome to papal Rome, you have papal authority doing the same thing that Nimrod and Tammuz did, being God on earth, which is what vicarious filii Dei means in the Latin, God on earth. That's why 1.5 billion people look to the Pope as God, and they call him Papa Pope, when Yeshua clearly said, call no man father but your Father Yahweh Elohim Papa. So now you start to see the deception. It's so hard to see because this fourth and great dreadful beast, which spoke pompous words against the Most High, is cloaked within modern Christianity. The prophetic trajectory is clear. The enemy pushes the world toward a counterfeit Sabbath, a false sign of allegiance, which is this very mark. It's not a mark in your hand. It's not a chip. It's not AI. It's not Donald Trump. It's none of your conspiracy theories. What does the Word of God say? We don't need your opinion. What does the Word say? The Word says that the Sabbath is a seal of God's covenant, which is what Satan broke in heaven. He broke the Shabbat, the rest, which is what he broke in the Garden of Eden. He broke the Shabbat, the rest, implementing the doctrine of the dragon, the beast, and the false prophet through the tree of knowledge of good and evil, when Adam and Eve ate thereof. And it's been happening ever since Babylon, ever since Medo-Persia, ever since Greece, ever since Rome, and today, 2025, in the United States of America. So according to this study, this was the seventh kingdom, the United States of America. Once again, the disclaimer, this is not the historical, biblical, scholarly setting of Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, and Rome. This is just for this study's sake. So this was kingdom number 7. The next video, we're going to talk about the specificities and the details of the true seal versus the false mark. So Revelation chapter 13, 16, when we just talked about the United States of America causing all, both small and great, to receive this mark. Now we're going to get into the specifics and the details of how this mark is received in the next video. This was the Sabbath, the Dragon, and the Lamb, part 5. Like, comment, share, subscribe, follow, all that. Let me know what you think, Lloyd Pause family. Shalom, shalom, Shabbat shalom.